Monster Hunter, does it suck? No. Well, that was a short video. What's up, guys? So I've been playing Monster Hunter the last few weeks, and it is by far one of the greatest non-pick up and play games out there. Now, what in the world do I mean by non-pick up and play? So there's lots of games out there that are super easy to pick up. You know, you get the mechanics, you pick them up, you can play, it's good to go. Monster Hunter is definitely like that. Not like that. It is the complete opposite. When you pick up the game, you're going to be thrown into a mess that you're not sure what you're doing. So when you first pick up the game, it's going to feel clunky, it's going to feel slow, it's going to feel something like you need to learn your way into. I mean, when I first got this, I picked up one of the biggest weapons I could, the greatsword, and by far, if you're new to this game, you should not be picking this weapon up because you think this weapon is going to be big swooping hits, you know, easy to just, you're going to be whomping on people, and yes, this weapon can whomp on people, and it's very strong, but let me tell you, it has huge negatives and drawbacks. You start to learn when you're using this greatsword that when you do an attack, when you charge up, you're going to be open for attacks for not just a little bit, but for a couple seconds, and if you miss the monster, if you miss your attack, you're going to be vulnerable for even longer. You're just going to be sitting there waiting for an attack to hit you. And you think normally when you see this big sword, lots of games today, you can just pick up, move, attack, get around the map really easy. No, you have to learn this weapon. And you realize once you start playing this, that all the weapons aren't just, you know, easy and fluid. Each one has its own ebb and flow, and you have to learn that. And you realize this is just part of the game. It's not a typical game where you can just, you know, get into it really easy. You need to learn the mechanics because everything in this game is very methodical. Every monster has a specific timing. That every character and every enemy you face, you're going to have to think about how to approach it. Because it's not just going to go in, you're going to take a lot of damage. Because every hit you take is going to be very significant. You're going to start to feel that drain on your HP, and you don't want to take a hit. Most games you can get in there, take a few hits, doesn't matter, but this game you want to really avoid those as much as possible. So when I first got into this, I actually, like I said, started with that greatsword, and I almost got turned off by the game because it was slower than I thought, it wasn't fun, I didn't enjoy using the greatsword, and after about a day I came back and I took the time to try out every single weapon. It took a bit of time to really try to see which weapon I liked, and I finally found out that the hammer is what I most relate to. The hammer, you're able to move around where you're charging, you have some really strong attacks, but yet even if you do miss, you still got a little bit of time where you can evade and get out of the way. So that ended up being my main, but you'll realize as a new player to the Monster Hunter series that if you just go in there and think the very first weapon you're gonna like, you're gonna be in for a bad time. You need to take the time to realize what weapon you like and enjoy. So I just encourage you, when you pick this up, don't think you're going to pick it up and enjoying the first weapon that you play it. You're going to have to figure out the weapon, and not only figure out that weapon, which weapon you like, but to figure out the mechanics of how it plays, its play style, what's its strong suit, what's its negative. Every weapon has positive and every weapon has its negatives, and it will show when you play. So think about that when you pick this up. So what's the advantage of all this? Why would the mechanics be slower? Because when you get into a match, when you get into a fight, you really feel every single hit. What's really awesome is when you first get in and you start to learn the mechanics, like now I know the hammer really well and I'm really starting to get good at it. Every time you land one of those hits, you feel it. You start to feel that hammer swing. You feel that momentum, and when it lands on that monster, you hear that smack. When he goes up into the air, if you hit him in the right way, it just feels so empowering and it feels so awesome. And like the gameplay gets a little addictive because you really feel those strong hits every time you hit that monster. So it's really cool because at first, when you first get in, it's a little off-putting, but when you start to really become almost, as people have said, you start to become one with your weapon. And when you become one with your weapon, you just want to get back in there because you feel its movement, you know its timing, and you just want to play more of that. And it's only actually has grown me to start to love other weapons. Now that I have a weapon to go from and I know the mechanics of it, I've actually tried, you know, stuff like the switch axe now, which I never would have tried when I first started the game, but it gives you something to build off of. So not only does the mechanics just feel good and the combat feels good, but the more you play, you start to realize how fun and enjoyable it is to get into every encounter. I mean, most places or just pickup games, you start to, I wouldn't say it wears on you, but you're always looking for the next thing. But for a Monster Hunter, every battle matters. Every battle, every time you hunt a monster, you start to really think about, how am I going to approach this fight? And that's just really different from most games nowadays. Yeah, Dark Souls is like that. I haven't actually had the time to play it, but SkillUp mentions it where he says basically Dark Souls is like Monster Hunter gameplay. So if you start to like the combat mechanics of Dark Souls, it sounds like you'll like Monster Hunter as well, because it allows you to really think about every match you're doing. And it has a grind, but it has a good grind, because every battle you go in there, you're going to be consciously thinking about every battle. It's just not going in and destroying some monsters. Every time you go in, you're going to be thinking, how am I going to approach this? Do I want to try a new weapon to take out this monster? And that is really, really enjoyable. And again, to even further push out the point that this is not really pick up and play, is there is a massive crafting system. There's lots of items you can find out every time you explore, and it's complex. It is complex. When you first play it, you're going to be off-put by it. There's a lot I still don't understand, but the more I go into it, I'm starting to understand the system. And it's not that it's bad that it's complex, it's actually great, because you start to realize the depth of the system. There's so much to it that they put into this game. And every time I'm getting in there, I'm starting to understand more. Okay, what can I get in? What can I do? What can I do with these items? How do I want to trap? Do I want to trap a monster? Do I want to use these items to stun a monster? There's lots of different ways and mechanics that you can approach every match. And even outside of the combat, you know, there's just a lot of depth to that, which I strongly, strongly enjoy. So guys, it's not going to be a kiddie pool experience. You're not going to be getting in the shallow end. It's going to be the deep end. And I encourage you to slowly wade yourself into it. It's going to be uncomfortable a little bit when you're first starting, but once you get into the deep end, you're going to realize how enjoyable it is to swim around in that water, to see how much there is to it. So guys, I strongly encourage picking this up. It's a great game. Get out there. And guys, if you're new to my channel, I'm the Successful Geek, where we talk about gaming, nerdy stuff, life in general. So make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you all soon.